Welcome to the Daily Agenda. Yes, absolutely. A very interesting development, wasn't it? Nathan Gill taking one for the team, so to speak. Sounds quite painful, doesn't it? Taking one for the team, or taking one from the team. More to the point. Ooh, saucy. But mind you, I'm sure most of the blokes in Ukip would enjoy that type of thing, considering the fact that it's just a den of iniquity anyway, just organised crime, quite frankly. Ukip, criminal gang full of degenerates. Not everyone in Ukip was a degenerate, but I struggled to find many who weren't. But yes, of course, taking one for the team. And what does that actually mean? Oh, well, it means insulating Nigel fake Farage from further criminal investigation into Russian funding habits and activities. So he's taken the fall for Nigel. Absolutely. The problem is, we know for a fact at least a dozen Ukip MEPs were on the Russian payroll. Now, I was at the Russian embassy on the 12th of June 2015 when their emissary, their broker, Elizabeth Jones, solicitor, was there attending Ambassador Yakovenko, glued to his side for about an hour, and from Anna Sabatin at the Foreign Office, who had a Russian source planted right next to them, that she was asking for funding for Ukip. And of course, Farage took over £5,000 from RT News for appearances there, although he later said, I'm not sure it was that £5,000 actually, because Farage is never sure about anything, is he? He just lies with the frequency the rest of us draw breath, because he's the king of U-turns. And that's all Nigel does, is one U-turn after another, until you turn in a different direction and ignore everything that's going on. Well, I don't turn in a different direction at all. And so the word now, and I've seen quite a few examples of this on social media, on X in particular, where, people are saying, we should reopen this Russian funding investigation. Well, it should be reopened, absolutely, because the NCA and Electoral Commission investigations were both stymied by Boris Johnson. That was part of the deal that Nigel made with him to put Boris in power, thus leading to Brino and the Boris wave invasion. Yes, that's right. You can always trust Nigel Farage to do something completely and utterly toxic towards the nation and the people. Guaranteed. If you're living in the real world, that is, if you're one of his groupies, then you're just lost in the mainstream media manufactured bubble that Nigel is some sort of messiah, trapped between here and the Isle of Man, where he has his offshore tax havens, of course, to avoid paying tax, because he's a tax fiddler. Just like Richard Tice and all the other crooked Tories. They're all parasites, quite frankly. And the only thing that really motivates and drives them is the filthy lucre out of money, huh? Or in this case, Boruski, rubles. And I don't believe any of Nigel's fairy tales about Russian funding in any way, shape or form. And that's why I think the investigation should be pressed. And the Russia report is partly classified, and we know Farage is mentioned in that classified material. That should be declassified. And ultimately, we have to ask ourselves, why is it Keir Starmer is not authorising this investigation when we were previously told that there would be investigations? So there was an investigation going on into Tommy Robinson, apparently, to see if he'd taken money from the Russians and stashed money in Russian bank accounts. Same with Paul Golding, because they've all been on that ticket, haven't they? The Russians have courted the centre-right, the crooked, corrupt centre-right completely. No evidence has been found of any description that we can see of that there's actually been an investigation, let alone funding, either way. No, I can't see one scrap of evidence that an investigation has taken place, any way, shape or form. But that said, there should be. And I don't believe any of Aaron Banks' fairy tales about where he got the money from so suddenly from these mining investments in South Africa, all part of BRICS. Absolutely, there should be an investigation, but there won't be an investigation, and I can tell you exactly the reason why. It's no great mystery, it's no great secret, particularly if you're someone who has my knowledge and experience. So, Nigel made it perfectly clear, did he not? At the end of May 2024, shortly before the general election, when he said, it's either me or someone like Nick Griffin. And so the establishment has to make a cost calculation, i.e. if we take on Farage and get rid of him with the dirt that we've got on him, then we're going to end up with something like Nick Griffin and nationalist revival or nativism on a major scale. Whereas with Nigel, we can keep it under control. It's a safety valve operation. He'll flat pack deep fake reform if we ask him to, if we tell him to, just like he did with Ukip. And that's all there is to it. And that's why there has been no real investigation into fake Farage and taking the rubles. Huh? That's right. And there won't be any serious investigation unless I get my hands on the levers of power, that is. Because if I get my hands on the levers of power, you can be absolutely certain Nigel Farage and a host of other Ukip trash will be charged with under the Treason Felony Act, and they know the reason why. It won't just be bribery, it will be treason. Okay? Carrying life sentences. That's because I'm totally committed to exposing the truth and prosecuting treason and criminality, whereas the regime is just prepared to indulge it because they need to stop the rise of nationalism, and that's all this is about. It's about stopping the rise of nationalism. So when nationalists and nativists say, oh, I'm not interested in his Russian funding, you better change your way of thinking, because that's exactly the reason why there is no investigation, because fake Farage is here to stop the rise of nativism. And if you're a nativist, that should concern you. Thank you for tuning in.